Muito obrigado, Senhora Secretária de Estado da Cultura. E, a partir deste momento, vamos passar, então, aos trabalhos do encontro com o primeiro painel e, portanto, exatamente, pedia à excelentíssima mesa, à exceção da Granca, que fizessem o favor, então, de retomar os seus lugares aqui na plateia. Muito obrigado. Ela vem para aqui, vem com o... Para aqui, sim. Ok. Muito bem. Muito bem. Mais uma vez, agradeço a presença de todos os participantes neste encontro e começo por cumprimentá-los a todos, evidentemente, cumprimentando também, como já foi feito no início, a excelentíssima delegação que presidiu a cerimónia de abertura deste encontro, a Senhora Secretária de Estado da Cultura, Isabel Cordeiro, a Senhora Presidente da Câmara Municipal de Arouca, Margarida Belém, que é uma coautora e organizadora, a Senhora Diretora Regional de Cultura do Norte, a Doutora Laura Castro, que foi fundamental na agilização de todos os procedimentos, desde logo, desde a primeira hora, colaborando de uma forma ativa em todo o processo de construção deste encontro, ao Sr. Juiz da Real Irmandade da Rainha Santa Mafalda, Sr. Presidente do ICOM Portugal, Maria de Jesus Monge, e a todos os conferencistas. De facto, conseguimos, felizmente, penso eu, que, com o reconhecimento de todos nós, um conjunto de personalidades cuja experiência, cujo trabalho, cujo pensamento em torno da museologia e do património cultural, de uma maneira geral, é bem prova da importância que a temática tem, o facto de terem aceito e estarem presentes na participação deste encontro. Gostaria também de cumprimentar os representantes da Assembleia Municipal de Arouca, o Sr. Presidente e todos os restantes membros, o Sr. Diretor do Centro de Formação AFCO, a Associação das Escolas de Arouca, Valdecâmara e Oliveira das Ameias, o professor José Rosa, o membro da Comissão Diretiva do ICOM Mundial, do Conselho Internacional dos Museus, meu querido amigo Luís Raposo, outro querido amigo, Presidente da Associação Portuguesa de Museologia, o João Neto, a Senhora Vice-Presidente da Câmara Municipal de Arouca, a Doutora Cláudia Oliveira, Presidente da Federação dos Amigos dos Museus de Portugal, que nos honra muito também com a sua presença, Maria Alvelos, e a Senhora Diretora do Museu das Trilobites, que também é uma parceira neste projeto, no domingo com a nossa saída de campo, que é o Centro de Interpretação Geológica de Canelas, a doutora Maria Almeida, Presidente da Assembleia da Real Irmandade, da Junta de Freguesia de Arouca, das senhoras e dos senhores secretários do ICOM Portugal, a doutora Sofia Marçal e o doutor David Felizmino. O senhor representante do ICOMOS, ou ICOMOS, como entenderem, do Conselho Internacional dos Monumentos e Sítios, o Dr. Orlando Sousa, meu colega e amigo, a senhora diretora do Museu de Altamira, Pilar Fataz, professor da Universidade dos Açores, que também fez o favor de estar presente connosco, professor Francisco Maduro Dias, e os restantes membros aqui presentes. Agradeço a todos a vossa presença e, de facto, justifica-se verdadeiramente uma análise desta problemática que tem a ver com os modelos de gestão, como a senhora Secretária e a senhora Presidente já muito bem referiram. Eu sobre isto só gostaria, antes de propriamente entrarmos na comunicação inaugural, dizer duas ou três coisas muito rápidas, dois ou três tópicos. Primeiro, a pertinência do tema, tanto em termos nacionais como em termos internacionais. De facto, vivemos num mundo em que atualmente os desafios são permanentes, são constantes, variam a uma velocidade estonteante. Estamos numa fase em que muitas vezes o que hoje é verdade, amanhã deixa de o ser, por razões muitas vezes alheias às próprias realidades que têm a ver com o património, com a cultura, com a mentalidade, e tudo isso, de facto, nos deixa um bocado perplexos, não é? Em relação àquilo que acontece hoje no mundo, sendo nós também na Europa particularmente afetados por isso. E é em relação a isso que, perante toda esta problemática que existe em torno do património e da forma como gerimos todo este nosso património cultural, que eu gostaria de aproveitar esta oportunidade para agradecer à Gorenka, eu já vou tentar dizer qualquer coisinha em inglês, por ter aceito o nosso convite, por intermédio quer do Luís Raposo, quer da Maria de Jesus Monge, e tenho a certeza que a Gorenka nos irá, seguramente, a sua reflexão, que agora partilhará connosco, nos vai enriquecer, dada, enfim, a importante experiência que possui num quadro geral destas tais incertezas que vivemos. Estamos certos também que o contributo de Gorenka constituirá uma mais-valia muito importante na forma como encaramos estes vários modelos de gestão e que vão ser aqui verdadeiramente debatidos. Ora, Portugal, evidentemente, não foge nem ao contexto europeu, nem ao contexto mundial, neste tal mundo das incertezas, mas uma coisa é verdade: a salvaguarda, a valorização, a correta divulgação dos nossos patrimónios, e a divulgação é no seu sentido mais nobre e amplo do termo, exigem que todos os profissionais do setor tenham plena consciência do alcance e dos limites que este respeito pelo património cultural, que é de todos nós, exige. Aliás, o próprio ICOM tem vindo a debater de uma forma muito intensa e assertiva, e está aqui um dos grandes protagonistas desse debate, exatamente sobre a questão da definição do que é um museu, o que prova, evidentemente, as dificuldades e, ao mesmo tempo, os desafios aliciantes que a sociedade contemporânea nos coloca atualmente. So, dear Gorenka, I would like to take this opportunity for having accepted our invitation, Charles Luís Raposo and Maria de Jesus Monge, in the certainty that a reflection which she will now share with us will enrich us a lot, given the important experience that, as in a general framework, of great uncertainties on a world scale. Como já viram, eu não sou assim propriamente um perito a falar inglês, mas estou a tentar. We are sure that your contribution will be an important asset in the way we face the various management models that will be exposed and debated in this meeting. So Portugal is not exception to the European and world context in a world of uncertainties and which we live, but safeguarding, valuing and correctly disseminating our heritage requires professionals in the sector to be fully aware of the scope and limits that respect for the cultural heritage of all demand us all. Do mesmo modo, agradeço a Pilar Fataz, que amanhã nos trará também a sua importante experiência, tanto prática como teórica, de uma entidade exemplar da nossa vizinha Espanha, Museu Nacional e Centro de Pesquisa de Altamira, e que muito nos ajudará a construir um pensamento mais moderno e atual na forma como encaramos e gerimos o património museológico e monumental. O meu portunhol é capaz de ser um bocadinho melhor. Assim mesmo, quero agradecer à Pilar Fataz, que amanhã nos aportará a sua importante experiência, tanto prática como teórica, de uma entidade exemplar em nuestra vecina Espanha, o Museu Nacional y Centro de Investigación de Altamira, y que nos ayudará mucho a construir un pensamiento más moderno y actual en la forma en que afrontamos y gestionamos el patrimonio museológico y monumental. Gracias. Ora, a ambas expresso o meu agradecimento, que é extensível, como não podia deixar de ser, a todas e a todos os conferencistas que decidiram, portanto, aceitar este nosso convite. Enfim, refletirem conjuntamente sobre este pertinente assunto em torno dos modelos de gestão que são passíveis de se assumirem como mais-valia para o património cultural. Os meus agradecimentos finais são para os participantes no encontro. Sem eles, evidentemente, sem todos vós, isto não seria, enfim, sequer razoável e é, de facto, desejo que a vossa estadia decorra com a maior das satisfações, quer no que vamos aqui receber em termos de informação qualificada, prestada por alguns dos protagonistas mais competentes e experimentados neste setor tão especial como é o de património cultural, bem, em especial, evidentemente, o museológico, e tanto na perspectiva dos gestores que zelam por estes bens e que são os nossos símbolos da identidade nacional, como pelos seus zeladores, os seus transmissores técnicos do património, por um lado, e também, importantíssimos, docentes, os professores, por outro. Porque acho que é muito importante, porque nós devemos chegar aos destinatários de todos estes objetos, digamos assim, do esforço conceptual, e que nós chamamos, eu não gosto muito de utilizar o termo, a população escolar. Mas a população escolar representa um conjunto importantíssimo da nossa sociedade, que é o futuro de qualquer país, de qualquer sociedade, de qualquer comunidade. E por isso, eu diria que a população escolar, entre parênteses, os vários níveis e graus de ensino, são os mais importantes, em modéstia entender, das preocupações que as entidades e as estruturas do património devem ter. Por uma razão e por uma visibilidade do ponto de vista projetiva. Daqui também a razão de ser da nossa preocupação ao acreditarmos o encontro com formação certificada para todos os grupos disciplinares. E aproveitando agora a oportunidade para agradecer ao senhor diretor do Centro de Formação, AVCOA, o Dr. José Rosa. Portanto, a todos vós, o nosso muito obrigado. A senhora Presidente da Câmara já fez o favor de me poupar em relação a 2 ou 3 palavras em torno daquilo que é o projeto da gestão partilhada. É aquilo que nós chamamos o modelo de Arouca. E o modelo de Arouca pode ser replicado noutros monumentos. É porque esses monumentos, nós no nosso caso, temos uma realidade que é uma realidade muito especial e específica. Por um lado, temos um belíssimo monumento, num território extraordinário, na dependência do Estado, que aqui estão todos representados. Mas teve, do ponto de vista histórico, um elemento fundamental, que foi a existência de uma real Irmandade, cujo objetivo e função foi a de gerir o património artístico, religioso que se encontrava no seu seio. Ora, isto teve como consequência que esse acervo fantástico se manteve incólume, e aqui se encontra, coisa que não aconteceu em tantos outros mosteiros, onde esse património foi pura e simplesmente perdido, desperdiçado, vendido, roubado, enfim, o que fosse. E, portanto, desse ponto de vista, aquilo que aconteceu no Mosteiro de Arouca e que lhe trouxe, de facto, uma enorme mais-valia, foi a manutenção do próprio edificado, da história do mosteiro, da história da Ordem de Cister, enfim, da Rainha Santa Mafalda, mas também desta capacidade que os arouquenses tiveram em manter e preservar e divulgar este património artístico magnífico e que, devo dizer, a história da arte em Portugal não se estuda sem passar obrigatoriamente pelo Museu de Arte Sacra de Arouca. Dito isto, tenho o gosto e a honra de vos anunciar a comunicação inaugural neste encontro e que vai ser proferida por Goranka Orjan, que é Presidente do INTERCOM Internacional, para a gestão dos museus. O título desta comunicação, Management of New Experience and Expectations in Museums and Monuments, Responding to New Realities. Eu convido-vos a ler na página do INTERCOM o extraordinário currículo de Goranka Orjan. É, de facto, uma das nossas maiores especialistas em termos mundiais e eu já não tenho tempo para vos apresentar aquilo que é a fantástica capacidade, a experiência e o pensamento desta senhora. Por isso, dear Goranka Orjan, the word is yours. Please, take your...
distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would first like to thank the organizers for inviting me here. It is a pleasure to be with you here in Arouca, beautiful place. And what a better place to speak about management than in a monastery, which obviously came to us in such a beautiful shape because it was managed and governed in a good way. So we just have to continue and follow good examples. Today I would like to speak about the several things. It's a short address, but first I would like to give a short briefing on what challenges do we meet today and what has changed after the COVID. Then present a few examples, not really as study cases, but briefly make you see how in practice things can work or not work. And then maybe going to evaluation and assessments that can help us in drafting our future work and how to improve the situation in the sector. A few words about INTERCOM. It's the International Committee for Museum Management. What we are really now focusing our work is leadership, good governance, and advocacy for museums, because advocacy is really what we need. Museums are competing with many others in the field today for scarce funding. So we really have to join forces and do work better. So what are the changes that affect us really? Actually, the crisis is ongoing all the time. It's not only COVID. The COVID finished, let's say, but we stayed with severe financial crisis. We face another war in Europe. Energy and fuels are going up, which affects our work as well. People have to come to visit our sites, our museums. In order to do that, they use transport. So our income somehow is connected with multiple things around us that we have to be aware of. In the recent survey INTERCOM did, we really interviewed more than 1,000 people globally, and museum directors mainly, and they say almost 60% of them, besides COVID, had another crisis. Either financial, maintenance, terrorist, something in, the threat of being closed down. So actually the misfortunes accumulate today. Human resources are also challenging because COVID changed attitude of people towards work, how they can work. They value their privacy more. We have today a lot of, quiet quitting in all world. It's a term that is used, that people are no longer wanting to work excessively for their organizations. For example, many are puzzled that there are even resignations in the sector, because before it was unimaginable. Once you get the work in a museum, you stay there for a lifetime. Now maybe it is not so attractive for everybody to work for low wages, which are a museum reality. The shift in audience demands, what they expect to get from museums changes. Climate change, green solutions, eco-friendly solutions are not always easy to employ in museums and heritage sites. So we also have to be realistic and look inside as well. We may have a problem with our being attitudes, being old-fashioned or rigidly connected with the practices that we take for granted and do not change from inside. And how to deal with it is not easy. We have to also be honest and say that museums and heritage sector in general has a lot of stakeholders, different people, because we are a public sector, we are in cities, we are in municipalities, in regions, in cultural landscape. So it's not only museum people you deal with, it's not only experts, many officers, public servants, citizens are also somehow connected with our work. This may result in a lot of conflicts of interest. We may not always want the same thing. And this is a reality. We have to accept that it exists. Costs and maintenance are high in our sector. So the monument like this, you can imagine, either you want to refurbish it or you want to maintain it, it costs a lot. How sustainable you can be in these circumstances is also a real question, which can be proved back well and backed up with right assessments. So what can cause trouble internally? So it's how we can foster change in people, in our collaborators, in decision makers, really requires a lot of, skill and management efforts, leadership efforts, what we like to say now, because you have to inspire people in order to make them collaborate and associate. What is also important is to see what I have put as central merging roles and responsibilities. So this is something we have to take into account today, so that you cannot really stay closed in your expertise paradise and do not pay attention to anything else. Internal governance is often considered as a problem in museums. Lack of diversity. I have put two pictures here, photos actually. What once was a men's realm today may be a women's paradise. So we often say in my country, when the wages go lower in a sector, you have the growing number of women in this sector. But actually the diversity should be there, because diversity makes the fuel for innovation, creation, hearing and listening to each other is really important. And this is also the variety of skills, competences, management, the way how the work is monitored. We have, often in museums this attitude that our work cannot be measured. It's so precious, so professionally expertise that not a single soul in the world can measure that, but they can't really. And if you start doing this, some will be appalled by the results, because not everybody is giving their best in the sector. And I think we should push a little bit more in this. And that's how we communicate our work, how audience, how people see us, what do we produce for them, what we give them back for this secure job in the public sector. Of course, every context is unique. That's why it's up to each museum, each heritage site to look into its contents, provided with expertise and prototyping for the audience they target, and then to really have the value in the community. What the good leadership is about stakeholders, about inner people who work in the museum, staff, employees, collaborators, artists, outside with decision makers, people who work in NGOs, companies, etc. So a whole range of different people. But of course, with our capacities, we cannot manage them all. We really have to see who requires more attention and who has to be kept informed, but kept informed, really, because people need to get a feedback on whatever you are doing in a community-related work. Well, securing the support of stakeholders is a demanding job. It takes time. So how much people in the museums really devote themselves to the task? It cannot be only the director who is a Batman flying from one stakeholder to another, you know, asking for support, begging for support, persuading. It has to be the whole team, the whole museum behind, you know, showing on every occasion that we are reliable partners, that you can count on us as experts, as curators, as everyone who works in the institution. Of course, failure is a normal thing that occurs in every job. So what if there is no interest? If we can't persuade somebody to invest in what we think is necessary? This is a reality. But if we work hard on to share the vision, to share the joint goals, and try to persuade people and convince them with arguments, not with fiction and phrases that are nice but don't carry any content, then there is a greater chance that we will succeed. So when we speak about stakeholders analysis and, of course, all the interest groups that you are collaborating in every bigger investment or any project that needs real support, and you know that if you are about to build a new museum, renovate a museum, introduce a new site or new management plan, you really need the support. You have to be careful how you are analyzing your stakeholders, because you have to have those who can really possess skills, knowledge, financial ability to support you, and of course time and devotion to the project. That's why it is important that you, these interests and expectations have clearly described in a transparent way, so that people really stay committed. Here we can have a really huge problem if this is not communicated well. If somebody expects, you know, that they will have a new open tourist site, and you expect that you will have a really well-established heritage monument guided according to the crude principles of conservation and renovation. So this may really affect the future attitudes. Of course, today we cannot ignore some of the specific conditions that are given. Even if you want to compete in EU projects, getting the support from structural fund, you have to either prove that you are aware of climate change consequences, that you have introduced in your project all the elements that will prove that you are thinking green. You will have to have this horizontal contribution, thinking about sensitive groups, disabled people, old people. So you have to, diversify in your explanations of programs for whom you are doing this. Pure expertise, I'm doing it for the monument, doesn't work anymore. The monument is to be saved, yes, of course, but for whom? You have to explain this, you have to prove this in order to get the money, in order to get the support. In order to do that, you really have to, ally with various groups, with various experts, with various people. Not all the expertise is in your museum, in your nearest circle. You have to engage different experts, see how you can influence decision makers. Of course, securing finances means that you will need probably to find more sources of financing. And if you have a public support, if the people are with you, if they are seeing that your project, your museum is worth backing up, then it's easier for you to communicate it to the others. We had recently a regional forum where, for example, museum director said it's excellent for the museum to be visible in media, to be constant in the media, because then you are talking to the journalists, to the reporters, and then it is more likely that the authorities will also be willing to hear you. If you are non-existent in a public space, why should somebody bother and listen to you? This is a past tense, a great drawing by our Norwegian colleague, Geir Helgen, how it looked wonderfully when we just came and asked for public funding, and then from one big bag, museums or heritage sites got what they need. Today, the competition is severe. Public allocations are scarce. We have to see and have to be aware that there are more and more stakeholders in the field competing for the same or lower amount of the money. So new museums are being established, interpretation centers have been established, NGOs are running different activities, and the money for culture doesn't go up. So we are all sharing, the same amount of money, and we have to really be careful how we explain and how we get the support. For us, it is really everything starting with a good narrative. If you have a good story, then it will be supported. If you are a famous site like our colleague Altamira, or for example in Croatia, Krapina, then, you know, you will not probably have a problem. It's National Geographic behind you. You are famous. You, of course, need more to maintenance. It's not the ideal story either. But if you are starting from a scratch, if you are in a smaller museum, then it is really something that you have to be careful about. How you will create resilience if this goes wrong, how you can compensate if one stakeholder is not willing but the others are. You have to play with these risks and see how it can work in a better way for you and your institution. Plan well, of course, check the legislation. For example, we had really I have got a fantastic idea, fantastic, but if you don't have land ownership settled, if you have so many steps before you address for the support, then even a good idea can become a failure. So legislation, rules, ownership, everything in the sector has to be settled. We have, for example, in my town now the problem of different political parties between the municipality, main city, and the state. And in '94, they have changed and wrote the agreement for the founding rights. And they haven't settled the ownership of the buildings. And so now when there is an earthquake, when there is a renovation of the buildings, this has come as an issue. So really it's very good that you plan well and check all the things ahead. And of course, when you start your investment and contracts, this is also has to be monitored and watched well. Let us go to a few examples how this actually every intervention has pro and contra within certain groups. This is in Zadar, the famous ancient city and medieval city, whose fortifications recently were inscribed on UNESCO list as Venetian defense work. And in former times, it was, how to say, a nice parking place for the people, you know. And now with the inscription, you have to make a monument free of cars, that people can walk, enjoy. So there was a lot of arguments, quarrels, because, you know, in such an ancient core of the city, it's a problem to park a car. So many citizens were against that. So how to persuade them to not to be so opposed to the idea, how to win them for the project to, how to say, give the space to the people. Of course, there is always in heritage protection, and museums are often placed in, at least in Europe, in monuments. There is always this balance between protection, because the best protected monuments are those that are not visited at all, you know, and so you can preserve them easily. And exploitation, which can be over-excessive and harmful for the monument. So you have to somehow find the balance. This is another example from Croatia. This is the Roman city of Salona in the vicinity of Split, where Diocletian Palace was built, which was abandoned after the fall of the empire and Great Migration, and really a huge number of monuments stayed there. But recently, the city of Solin, where Salona was, started building a lot because the real estate in Split went high in the price because of the tourism, and people just moved outside and started to building around. Even, for example, coming with houses and cars near the ancient theater, etc. And of course, the authorities have an ambition, and the municipality, to do something with such a huge site, you know. And then you have a sporadic solution which really look like another devastation and not like a proper site management. But of course, you have the ambition to do something, to have a number of visits, because Split is one of the most popular visited towns in Croatia, especially during the summer. You cannot even pass through the city. So if they have 3 million visitors, we at least would like to have 300,000. But with what, you know? And benchmarking for projects here was done in a wrong way. Only, you know, looking at the number of visitors, but not looking at what you have to invest to come to that, to start having these numbers. That you have to really cultivate the area, give limited access, fence the monuments, and offer the services for the people. We have better example in Pula in Istria, also a Roman town, where the Archaeological Museum of Istria was completely refurbished. They also introduced new technologies in presentation, but also connect the museum with the broader environment. Here is the reconstructed Roman theater, which is a kind of an excellent venue connected to the museum. Here we have a real good solution how even opposite political parties can join in the project. For example, the museum is owned by the Ministry of Culture and it's national, and the monuments in the city belong to the municipality. But nevertheless, the museum also runs Arena, one of the best preserved amphitheaters in Europe, and uses the entrance fees to invest in the monuments and in the museum. For example, in Dubrovnik, they have a different policy. The city took all the entrance fees from the museum into the municipality cash desk. And they are left only with annual programs what the city gives them. But the money from the monument, from the museum selling tickets, stays in the municipality. So there are different options which you can or should negotiate. What is also very important is that there are new types of venues that are appearing. Sometimes they have nothing to do with the monuments. They just offer new contents like museums of tomorrow, of future. The most impressive realization is, of course, in Dubai. And there you can see how people are really attending those new contents, those new museums, because they are interested in other themes and other topics. And we are sharing that audience with new emerging sites and types of museums. It's not, it's on every continent. For example, like Futurium in Germany. Science and digital innovation are also a new attraction. So people will go there, will experience something that they cannot at the traditional heritage. or can do immersive experiences, even with, it's not real art, it's not the real monument, you know, but they like to enjoy being in there, being involved. That's create new sensations in people. And I think museums and traditional heritage sites managers have to take this into account, that these are the new demands in public, and that you are not, how to say, in advantage always when you have a real thing. If you can recall a famous novel by Henry James, The Real Thing, where the noble couple was rejected, and another simple, ordinary people were taking as better models to represent the nobility. They were deeply offended. They couldn't comprehend how this can happen. And the painter told him, you don't emanate this picture anymore, you know? So what you are really creating in your spaces, it's important. Of course, even the surrounding of the most attractive sites like Machu Picchu can have its bad counterparts. If you overbuild in the tourist areas for arriving of the tourists, this can really create monstrous solutions. Like this in the train station where the people enter the buses for the site. Or, for example, you can be aware that everything you do can create a side tourist industry. It's producing a lot of, how to say, at least waste and overcrowding beautiful sites with everything. Exploration is another thing that we have to take into account, that modern visitors are interested in. You know, they like to experience things. For example, our people always say, "Oh, why do people go to Museum of Illusions? And why should they pay 10 euros to enter the Museum of Illusions, and they will not pay 10 euros to enter my museum of, I don't know, ethnography?" But they do. They do. And you have to be aware of that. And how will you manage this? And how you can offer something from your collection that can be interesting for the people. They connect differently. For example, we have opened in our museum pet-friendly museum, because the pets are there. Every second person in the city has got a pet. So all these things have to be taken into account when you are drafting your project, when you are presenting what will you do, and when you address somebody who has to see whether your impact is good. What will you create? What value you will do? So for museums and heritage sites, it's always good to combine these social and financial things. Numbers are not always on our sides. You will never have direct financial returns usually. And because if you have large numbers, then you have large expenses and costs. So this is always something you have to have in mind. But this quality research has to always go with quantitative elements. And of course, when you explain what will you do, you have to be aware of the things that will happen anyway, and something you will achieve with your project. So indicators that have been mostly used in EU assessments for cultural heritage projects are those most frequent that connects tourism, creative industries and activities, then social capital and real estate. If you invest in the cities, municipalities, tourist area, this will always have something to do with real estate. Less frequent are also those, but also important, that are here. All these most frequent are above 20% being included in every evaluation, and those are under 20, more under the 15, I would say. Once again, when you try to make these evaluations and impact assessments, most impact assessments if you are doing the project, so this macro and micro context plus all the others have to also be taken into account, and how you have to manage this, and how will you present it to the stakeholders in a transparent way, in showing responsibility, showing that it will be an inclusive project with good results and producing efficiency. So I also wanted to draw your attention to one thing, which is that we often speak about cultural value, how this is important for people, and of course it is. If it's on a UNESCO list, it will certainly be well visited. But new things are appearing. For example, there is a guide of the 10 top Instagrammable places in London, because young people are there. They are actually visiting the places where they can make good photos. It will be your site or not. It depends on you. And even new artificial things like the gardens in Singapore attract attention. So, well, it is important then to see what is the profile of your monument, of your museum, how you can describe it, where do you see yourself in the future, what you need to do in order to make it more attractive, to see the big picture. What are your highest aspirations? Can you share them with your community? The recent results, we see that from monuments and sites, historic monuments and sites are mostly visited. Then there are traditional events and museums and galleries, but there is almost 40% of non-visits among the citizens at all. So this is a place where we have to see how in future the numbers will go on. They always say, oh well, there are a lot of calls which support the cultural heritage. But if you look more carefully, Horizon, the blue one, this is research. This is not investment in refurbishment and in infrastructure. This is research in heritage. Erasmus also, in a connection with education, InvestEU, Creative Europe, in mobility. So all these programs actually do not give money for maintenance and for, investing and building. This goes mainly from structural funds, and the limitations are bigger and bigger. In the last financial period, it was 5 million euro per monument. For such a site, it's nothing. So you have to more and more explain how you are going to, explain that your project is a value for money, really. And what is still good, that people in Europe are linked to their heritage. They have emotion, they think that their identity is linked to the monument. And that is good. That is really good for museums, for heritage sites. But we have to put efforts to keep that emotion, to keep that feeling alive. And this is important, how you are going to make these connections with people, how you are going to win them for your monument. And this should not be neglected, that they think it's worth keeping and financing the sites. And of course, with just pure scientific information, with experts focusing only on their work, on their publications, it's hard that you will succeed in that. So we have to build interesting stories around our site, do a lot to improve our presentations, to use all new methods and technicalities and knowledge. And of course, we need people who have skills to do that. Therefore, we cannot have, those lack of diversity among staff and among the people around the museums. And the message should be globally relevant. Today, we cannot live without that. Thank you very much, and I hope it will be an opportunity for a discussion.
Thank you for your excellent communication. And I hope we can talk about your questions you put here in the time of debate soon. But now we have a Monacal kitchen waiting for us, and, and we go there. Ora, como acabei de dizer, o céu ainda está azul, o tempo está agradável e temos uma cozinha monacal, enfim, do mosteiro, à espera de nós para uma experiência gastronómica muito interessante. Estão, portanto, todos convidados a descermos para o coffee break e tendo em conta que estamos atrasados 12 minutos, às 17h12 estamos aqui outra vez. Está bem? Então até já. Obrigado.